Hey guys, Lucas Green here, and I'm back to rank the next season of the Ben 10 episodes. This is season 2 of Ben 10. I've officially done the list of episodes for season 2. So, as you may be aware or maybe not, I should mention this right now. All future content for Ben 10 will be solely released on the archive channel, and that's the agreement me and Adam have both made. So hopefully he's remembered that. I'm not sure if he has. I haven't messaged him due to respect to this morning. But that's me. I'm getting out all of these rankings done early for me because I've got a lot to get on with. The Linksy series is my top priority right now. But I'm going to make sure I get these out before then. So that's why they're early in the morning. But like I said, future all Ben 10 content will solely be released on the archive channel so we can give it more love and as exclusive content. Anyway, though that being said, let's begin the ranking. Starting off with the first episode of season 2, ranked from worst to best, which is for me, The Big Tick. The Big Tick is the worst episode of season 2 for me. I don't because it's not really much of it's kind of a drag really. The only good thing about it is the introduction of Cannonbolt. Um, well, essentially, the plot is Ben unlocks a new alien called Cannonbolt, who he thinks is kind of a loser, so he stops using him. And then this evil force comes, which is not really evil at all. It's just like this giant creature comes, which I don't think we have. The Great One, was it? They call it. He's basically his job is to destroy planets and devour them in order to keep itself alive, which it doesn't really make sense. So, in that knowledge that this big tick creature thing is not really the villain, it's the people who are worshiping him or worshiping it is the villain. Mainly the tall one with the eye beam, well, not the eye beam, the laser beam from his forehead, which I'll get into when I get to villains. So when we do the villain ranking, we're not including the big tick because he's only doing what he needs to do of their survival. It's just the people who are respecting him or worshipping or whatever are kind of have more evil intentions in mind than the big tick itself does. But yeah, so Ben tries many different aliens to try and beat this thing to stop it from causing destruction on the Earth, but it doesn't work. And of course, it turns out that the one alien to save the day is the one alien he actually got. So that's a bit convenient, but obviously Ben's supposed to win because it's called Ben 10. As it stands, though, the big tick is kind of a drag because most of the episode, apart since Ben can't beat the monster or defeat it anyway, they're either just fumbling around with the three Stooges, or they're forced to worship the thing and scrub it and stuff. So like, then they're just what to do, and then when finally Ben decides to go alien, it doesn't work either. So yeah, it's just a bit of a drag, really, kind of like season 1 was. But to be fair, I do appreciate that this is the first episode of season 2, so it's slowly starting to pick up its pace from season 1 was. As it stands, that's all I've got to say about the Big Tick. It is the worst episode for me. At the next spot on my list at the bottom is Galactic Enforcers. I'm sure this says the title, I forgot what it's called, but the Galactic Enforcers episode, well, it does have a bit more action in it with the fall of 6-6 and Volcanus, with 6-6 returning and the Volcanus being introduced. That's good, but what drags it down is that we have Ben wants to be a superhero, and he already is a superhero, but he wants to be a superhero in the sense like DC Comics or Marvel. And then, of course, coincidentally, we have an actual superhero team with Ultimus, Tiny, and Snap-Attack? Snap-Tack? Sorry if I mispronounce his name, but he's basically this brain with this octopus-like body, and he's like the brain of the team. So anyway, these guys, they kick butt with Ben, and then like, you team up with us, we can take these guys out together, and they're here for this element that will make this element that will help make a bomb of some kind, but a powerful weapon. And since they're bounty hunters, they're either going to use it for themselves or sell it on the legal black market. Either way, it sounds evil, so we've got to stop this. But then we've got all this drag about how, we're not going to allow any superpowered being to help us, because in order to help us, you need to have powers. Which is obviously the message. I'm assuming part of the message. And the other message is clear, like, oh, now Ben's got some superhero friends. He wants to be part. He could be part of this team and leave her behind and help fight crime that way. But of course, there's also the fact where we have the weakness of Ultimus, which is chocolate, which is now, to be fair, Superman has like, an obvious weakness with kryptonite, but this one's more on the nose, like an earth substance that you eat is your weakness. Okay. But yeah, this leads into our remaining heroes taking down the forces of evil. They do so. Oh, no surprise there, and essentially all that Ben learns is he's not going to be part of the team, this new superhero team, because he realizes how grateful he is with his old family. So I think that's some development there. So there's something to learn. Well, the Big Tick didn't really have anything to learn at all. But yeah, that's all I've got to say about the Galactic Enforcers. So let's move along to the next episode. The next episode on the list is, for me, They Lurk Below, which I believe is the water episode where they go underwater. That's the one I'm referring to anyway. So this episode is where Ben and Gwen are told by Max to go and visit one of Max's old friends, maybe from his plumber days, but they don't specifically go into detail about it. But he has an underwater park, which is kind of like Jurassic Park, where like I own an island on the coast of Costa Rica, and I want you to these new people to be the first ones to take a look at it. So it's got a similar concept with that kind of concept there, but it stops there. Anyway, though, so they go there and they explore the sites, and they meet Edwin, of course, who is like his grandson, because like the main guy, Donovan, is the guy in charge. Obviously, the grandson and the grandfather don't get along. I'm referring to the side characters, not Max and Ben. But yeah, they don't get along well. Max tries to bond with Donovan to help understand that young people can be good, like can be helpful, while Ben and Gwen are trying to get an understanding of it through Edwin. So yeah, this is basically like an understanding. This is like Ben's family trying to help this other family out with their relationship, and as they go through this quest of fighting a bunch of robotic squids, which is what the Force is. That's another thing. It's another mysterious force we don't know about, like the Limax, who never come back at all. That's another missed opportunity. But yeah, Edwin, I give him credit because he's one of the very few humans who actually who puts two and two together really quickly that Ben is the alien hero. Because it's pretty obvious when you have all these random one-off characters. But yeah, so I will give him credit for that. As it stands, though, I think They Lurk Below at least has some attempt at better story and character development for one-off characters, as well as a different environmental feel to it, which is kind of similar to the Kraken. Is it better than the Kraken? I don't know about that, but it's still something, and it gave me more enjoyment than the Big Tick or the Galactic Forces pretty easily. So that's where I put They Lurk Below. Moving on, we've got the next episode on my list, the Camp Fear, which is the debut of the Wildvine character, or the Wildvine alien. This is obviously a playoff on those camp monster stories, where you have a bunch of people in a campfire and they tell stories about how there's this evil force, and then it's actually this evil presence is actually real, something like that. So we have a similar desire of that. It does have a bit of an eerie tone to it at the start, with like this kid in the middle of the street gets to try to run away by the rust bucket, and then we have these two twins, which kind of fits with the whole if you know The Shining, it fits with that motif. Obviously, they do something different with it. They play a nice twist on that, where the kids aren't like creepy at all. Well, I don't think so anyway. Where they're actually just like a very good source of comedy in the episode, which I will not get into. I'll say them for one of characters. But as it stands, they do provide the episode with more humour, which boosts it up. And of course, we have the development for Ben and Gwen's relationship to get along better with each other. And it's hard to say if they fully understand that message. It's like throwing as a joke, like, we don't like each other still. But yeah, they do at least attempt to try. Anyway, though, so what happens is Max gets kidnapped in this episode by the villain of the episode, and I was forgetting was there ever a villain, and it turns out there is a villain, and he's basically this one-off creature that called. Now he doesn't have a name, so me and Adam just have referred to him as the fungi leader, and he basically captures Max. I'm not sure why. I don't know exactly the full details. But anyway, this leads into Ben going after him, getting him back, which makes him admit something, I believe, to like Max, like how he maybe he was admitting that I should be better to Gwen or something. But whatever he was admitting to him, this basically triggers a new transformation to become Wildvine, and he manages to lead himself to the big bad, take him out pretty easily, and then go Stinkfly and stop the plant creatures from spreading across of the world. So yeah, it does have a bit of a higher stakes here. So I mean, the Big Tick did, but the Big Tick was kind of a drag. And it has more higher stakes than they look below Galactic Enforcers, and it has a bit of comedy with the side characters as well as development for the main characters, even if that development went out the window at the end. But still, I feel like I find it more enjoyable than the episodes I've mentioned prior to this, so that's why it's up this high. Next up for me is Truths, which is the I took that back. I said the Big Tick was the one of the. I'm not sure about the big. I think the Big Tick was the second episode, but this is definitely the first one at least, and that is Truths. Truths is the introduction of how Max explains his plumber days, because we got a hint of that in like series 1, Secrets, but he didn't have much time to explain it in detail because they were fighting Vilgax. But in here he gives like the full story that the plumbers are like this like basically like space police or space ghostbusters, where they fight these dangerous alien criminals and put them in a place called the Null Void, a space dimension where all the worst of the worst are banished. So that's how it's going down there. And how Vilgax was taken out of the picture was he and his partner Phil were working together, because I'm assuming like logic, you always have to have a partner in space. So they go and they defeat Vilgax by strapping him to a rocket, sending him up and blowing him up that way. But apparently explosions don't kill Vilgax. That's what we learn. Because obviously in Secrets he doesn't die there. Because we know that, obviously because I'm watching season 2. And, when this explosion happens, it doesn't kill him. And even in the pilot of 9/10, that explosion didn't kill him, just put him in a tank. So an explosion does not kill Vilgax, period. Just don't do it. But as it stands, though, what happens in the episode from that point is Ben wants to bring back the plumbers again at first, and then Max is like, no, I'm retired, obviously due to his age. And probably something else made him want to quit too. But then that leads into the direction of Phil once again, and he still wants to do the plumber work, because he basically admits that, ever since you took out Vilgax, the alien work's gone down the bucket. Which then transfigures into an encounter with all these different alien creatures somehow popping up out of nowhere. And all these alien creatures are actually very similar to the ones from the Null Void, which Max picks up. So he does some digging, goes to Mount Rushmore, which is where, I believe it's Mount Rushmore, where the plumber base was in the first season, and it turns out the Null Void projector, which is the gun that projects the portals to the Null Void, is gone. And it turns out Phil has it. So yeah, Phil's been basically releasing all these creatures so he can make a quick buck and bring back the glory days of the plumbers. Because he misses that thrill of excitement and adventure. Basically, this comes into where Ben finds out about this, and originally the plan was to have Max, Ben, and himself as this team, because he figures out that Ben has the Omnitrix and it's real and it's got powers, and they could team up and be a great team together. So Phil isn't really a villain per se, I would say, but there is a bit of villainy, not fully villainy. I'll get into that when I cross villains. But as it stands, though, his demise rolls into there's a scuffle for the Null Void projector in a car chase. It results into he tries to shoot the gun. It backfires via mirror, and it sends him through the portal where he presumably dies by one of the alien Null Void creatures. And all the other Null Void creatures since they have the gun now, they can just zap them back when they're knocked out and send them back to the Null Void. But yeah, that's essentially the wrap up for Truths. It does have a nice reveal for a full understanding of Max's character, who he is, what he has, and what all the stress on his mind of wrapping up the plumber days. And after this episode, it's another good reason why he does want to wrap up the plumber days. The introduction of Phil is a nice dynamic. Seeing a partner go to the dark side, which we have seen before in with Warp Dark Matter from Star Command / the Lynxie series and other things, the partner goes to the dark side. Yeah, heck, even Kevin Levin kind of did that if you think about it. But yeah, And then you have a nice camaraderie with Ben learning that not all people can be trusted per se. Like, yeah, he kind of learns something, I would say. So out of this whole ideal, and it does go through the whole episode. So there is something there for him. So yeah, I would say it's a more a more relevant episode than Camp Fear, which is why I put it more higher up because it has like a more weight to it. Moving on, we have Gwen 10, which is the What If episode where we get Gwen with the Omnitrix instead of Ben, and Ben's apparently me and Adam had to assume this has to be an alternate timeline because like there's no other way it would work how the plot is normally. So based on that, it's basically like a different dimensional timeline where we have Gwen with the watch. Ben knows everything that's happened from this up to this point, and he's trying to explain it to everyone. Where's the Omnitrix? Why do I have it? And then Gwen, of course, gets it, and like in the same setting as and then there were 10, and the events of, and then there were 10 playback as well, with her turning into Heat Blast, not setting the forest on fire, blasting her name in the sky, and then the big drone shows up, and she easily takes it out. And then it shows a bit more with Vilgax actually fully being ready to take Gwen on. So she goes and shows off that she's even more better with the Omnitrix than Ben is, and that's what upsets Ben more because it's not the fact that he can't have the watch, of course, but when he sees how good she is with it, he knows that she's a better person to have it than he is, and that's what upsets him even more. Because because he can't be the hero, but like he knows that she's better with it, and if she had it, she would do a better job than he could, and that makes him feel kind of sad and kind of guilty in a way. So that's what I got out of that whole dynamic there. Vilgax then shows up, captures Gwen. We get the events of Secrets once again. Max basically figures out that Ben was telling the truth because, of course, due to his plumber connections, obviously, and they go and rescue Gwen, and the watch comes off, goes to Max. He gets the watch now, becomes upgrade, and they all get out of there, and we get a similar events to the Secrets ending of how Vilgax dies there. And then, of course, that is where the episode wraps up. But we do get a nice message that Ben doesn't need to have the Omnitrix in order to be a hero, which is what I think a lot of other episodes do further on from this point. So, yeah, especially in the Secrets of the Omnitrix as well. But this is an element where, like, Ben, you don't need the what, like, you already went hero as Ben, so you already saved them. Because it helps that he has already been through this events before. Anyway, that's why I think Gwen 10 actually deserves more credit than it deserves. It's not a bizarre one. It's more than a bizarre one-off episode. It helps develop Ben's character, even if this is an alternate timeline and it's a different Ben entirely. But whatever, I find it a fun, enjoyable what-if scenario. Moving on, though, we've got the Ultimate Weapon. Ultimate Weapon is a better episode for Enoch. It's not Adam's favorite episode for Enoch at all, I don't think. But for me, anyway, I would say it's a pretty good one. It's a pretty good one. It's basically on the concept of Indiana Jones, kinda. Well, you think Enoch was obviously going to return. Because like he says, we're going to find out everything we can about these people. But actually, he's going after this weapon, which is the Mask of Apuk, I believe it's pronounced. And when Max first sees this thing, he becomes solely... This is actually, yeah, I take that back. Actually, don't take anything back. But basically, this episode is a solely Max-focused episode, which is good, because I appreciate that we get some character development for Max, because we have established he has some weight on his shoulders, and it's nice to see that play out, like how he gets some more development. So he basically makes a rival with Enoch through this ordeal for the mask, and they get the mask eventually from this base, and this comes to a bit of snapping between Max and his grandkids, back and forth there, because he's so obsessed with the mask. He gets more obsessed with the mask as the episode progresses, going for each puzzle and each event with the Forever Knights, forking over until I want to say when Ben does forearms, he finally decides to make a stand. I appreciate that it's Ben who makes a stand at Max, and at first you think it's going to be Gwen, because like when you're a bit too harsh on him, like, but Max easily shuts her off. But it's it is Ben as Four Arms who like stands up to Max now, which is funny, Ben, that you're saying that as Four Arms. I mean, I would appreciate you doing that as Ben yourself, but still, also Ben as Four Arms in this episode was maybe a bit too long for his transformation. But apart from that, basically he tells him like, we are focused on what's important here. Are you? They know what's important, and Ben knows what's important, as in the family is important right now, not the mask. But they also understand that the mask themselves is important. But Max has to understand that the family are also, they have the right idea on mind, just that you're being a bit too harsh on them. So you need to like tone down a bit. So, and then it comes to this big epic finale of this temple like peak where the ultimate weapon is, which is this great sword. And Enoch is trying to climb up that temple with all the Forever Knights battling around, along with the obstacle, which is like a Pook, this god creature. And then Four Arms tries to fight that off, and then Gwen and Max try to get the mask. Gwen gets captured a few times, I think, and so does Ben. And then he gets 2 opportunities to grab the sword. He realizes what he's done, goes back to save him, because he realizes what's more important here, and his family is more important than saving the world, which I understand from a character's point, like he's meant to care about his family more, but at the same time the ultimate weapon is going to have enough power to destroy. When you say things like, oh, it's going to destroy humanity, that kind of makes the stakes a bit more important than one person's family. I know it's kind of a dick move to say, but at the same time, this is the whole of humanity. To quote Spock from Star Trek, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or something like that. But I do understand the message here that Max has to take more care for his family, because as soon as he saw the mask, he's obsessed with solving this crime. Well, not crime, but like adventure. Anyway, though, turns out the ultimate weapon is not so powerful after all, as it's been embedded in the temple for so long, it's gone so old by time and has faded away. Enoch stays there because he's so desperate to get alien technology, he stays at the crumbling temple. They leave, take a chopper home, and Max learns a lesson, essentially. I do appreciate that we get Max in his plumber gear, even though he's basically not in the best of shape to be a hero. But it's nice to see him try and pick up the plumber roots. But yeah, as it stands, it's a nice development episode for Max, which is nice. I do appreciate that. So as it stands, it's a bit for the character development we finally get for Ultimate Weapon for Max. Ultimate Weapon is a pretty good episode. Moving on, we've got the Mutant Ray episode for Dr. Animo. This is a pretty good episode for Animo, because once again we get to see more of his creativity. We don't know what crazy creations he's going to come up with. But in the episode, of course, it's about Ben trying to fiddle with the watch some more, trying to unlock some more secrets of it. And results into the faceplate of the watch and being knocked off, which is like the little dial twist piece, and that falls off into the ground. Then next day, Animo shows up for revenge, and he sees Ben turn into Stink Arms, which is like a fusion between Stinkfly and Four Arms. But these transformations aren't as powerful as they normally are. For example, he has the strength. He's not as strong as he used to be, and since he's so big, he can't fly. So there are these transformations aren't at full strength. Clearly, as that happens, Animo gets his hand on the faceplate, takes it, and leaves. And he starts his experiments on a bat, making a heat blast like bat creature. And then our heroes figure out, oh, you broke the watch, and now Animo's got it. We got to stop him. So they go and do that. And of course, the whole joke throughout this whole episode is like, "I told you so, Gwen," kind of thing there, and that of course has some payoff at the end. And obviously what established was earlier, like, Ben, you should be messing with that thing, and that comes in. I think this episode does it best, explaining that you shouldn't fully mess with the Omnitrix, even though he doesn't really learn this lesson because he gets master control in the end of the season, but at least the message is still there. So he tries to mess with the watch again, and like I said, Animo takes it and all that stuff. They go and go after him. With Ben, keep transforming into the different alien combinations. So we have Grey, Diamond Matter, and then later we have, of course, the worst transformation you could possibly think of with Heat Jaws or Rip Blast, I believe it. Yeah, Rip Blast makes more sense. So basically, when they finally get to Animo, who's in this observatory, Animo turns Max into a mutation of this slug creature with stinkfly eyes, and like that's when Ben breaks down and it's like, we've got to stop Animo. Like, get your crap together. We have to stop him. So he turns into not the best combination, of course, with Rip Blast, which is a fusion of Heat Blast and Rip Jaws. So he goes in. It turns out his fire powers work in the water. And then after a few fighting off the creatures, Gwen takes the faceplate from Animo, knocks him in the water, and they figure that Gwen puts the faceplate in backwards in the device, returning Max to normal, and then basically Ben learns something real quick. Like, he grabs the faceplate from Gwen, puts it on his symbol on the watch, symbol on his body, which all the aliens have symbols on, so he puts it on there, which restores the watch back to its normal self. And of course, at the end, I told you so. And of course, we see once again Animo driven off by a paddy wagon. So yeah, overall development for Ben's character, not to meddle with the watch, even though he still does later in the show, so it's not really a fully developed message. Gwen has a bit of fun with the joke and helps Ben out at the end. Max makes a good sacrifice. So of course it shows good parentage there. Animo being once again a fun villain. For me, he's a very fun villain. As in, he's not the serious type. He's more like one of the better sources of comedy when it comes to villains. Better than Zombozo anyway. But yeah, so it's a nice fun episode for me anyway, with like a nice attempt to learn a message. But yeah, that's a good episode for the Mutant Ray. Moving on, we've got Tough Luck, which is the episode where Hex returns to get his revenge on Lucky Girl, and he goes after the Keystone, which is like a more powerful version of the charms of Bezel. And his plan is to bring back the original charms, which I don't understand at all, because like this charm is meant to be more powerful. The Keystone is meant to be more powerful than the charms of Bezel combined, basically. That's why Gwen will have these newer powers, because basically she wants to be Lucky Girl again. Ben decides to take them all to this carnival event, this expo of magic, basically, which Gwen thought was like serious magic, was actually like illusions, parlor tricks. But in this ordeal, she finds the Keystone bracelet, conveniently of course, gets it and becomes Lucky Girl again, helping him save some civilians with Stinkfly. Then it goes into this whole act where Charmcaster, who's also a character in this, she makes her debut here. She's going to help her uncle out, for her like family reasons probably. And they go and this exposition where our heroes are at, and they have a kerfuffle there for the Keystone, which leads into a maze, and from there. Just got a little tab to sweat what's gone there. Anyway, but like I said, this goes into a maze, like I said, and from there after like Charmcaster and Gwen meet up, and like Charmcaster tricks Gwen to giving her the Keystone, and at the finale we have what our heroes trying to fight off Hex and Charmcaster before they can perform the ritual. Charmcaster tries to stab her uncle in the back. This could I realize, presumably I assume some sort of dialogue from Lucky Girl makes her help her stand up against her uncle. That's what I picture the thing, because I feel like Lucky Girl kind of helps her stand up to her uncle, kind of thing, without her knowing it. So she does that. She stands against her uncle, and she tries to take over the situation, which she kind of does. But then Wildvine just breaks them all, and then it's saved. Because when the charms are being made, he breaks them with his fingers, and that causes powers to be drained from Hex and Charmcaster. I'm pretty sure about that. Because next time we see Hex is in the Eternal Water episode, and he doesn't look so good. So yeah, that's what we get out of that. Overall, this is another development episode for Gwen's character, where once again it's shown that you don't need powers to be a hero, kind of like Ben's ordeal was. The first Lucky Girl episode was about it's the same idea. Both Lucky Girl episodes, you don't need powers to help out, And of course, in the end of this one, she gets a hoverboard, but she never comes back as Lucky Girl again to deal with the hoverboard at all. So I'm not sure what the point was. And of course, the running joke there at the end is that the Keystone is actually back working again. Because like with first, we didn't think it was working anymore because its powers were drained. But no, it still works, and she doesn't realize it at all. But she does give up the mantle of Lucky Girl after this. But yeah, overall, nice good development episode for Gwen's character, I'd say. And it's a better one for Hex anyway, with the fact he's got Charmcaster to help him with him. Moving on, we've got Framed, which is the return of Kevin 11. And this time he's basically able to set up Ben for all these crimes around San Francisco because he's basically got this mutation. His mutation has finally gone full, where he's absorbed enough watch energy so he can become any one of those aliens as long as he concentrates hard enough. But the side catch is he can't transform into a human for only a short period of time now. So that's the one ordeal, and he wants to take his revenge out on setting up Ben for all these crimes, pretty much so, considering he looks exactly like him now in his alien forms. And this starts the rivalry of I would say this episode starts the rivalry between Ben and Kevin. Now you could say the pilot did, but that just set it up. I would say this fully starts to build that rivalry up, because they were friends in the first one, and it went different directions that was set up. While this one basically establishes the rivalry a bit better. So they keep coming across one another. They keep coming across one another and have these alien battles. And we also get the introduction of Lieutenant Steele, who's also going after the alien heroes in the news. Because recently Kevin's been doing crimes, and that's what's got Lieutenant Steele on his back. But from there we get this leads up to a fight on the Washington. Wasn't the Washington Bridge? The San Francisco Bridge. I'm pretty sure it was. I might be wrong with that, but that bridge, and basically Steele gets knocked out, and Kevin and Ben have another throwdown. This results into Ben wins, beats Kevin, but doesn't finish him off because he's not worth it, and triggers a transformation where Kevin 11 becomes a chimera of the Omnitrix aliens that Ben possesses right now. So he's stuck in this state, which leads into Lieutenant Steele shooting him into the water, where he supposedly dies, which obviously he doesn't die, of course, because if he's got Ripjaw's DNA now, he's gonna be fine. Anyway, though, that is it for Frame. Framed is a very fun episode because you're curious to see what episode Kevin turns into next, which helps a nice good rivalry fight between Ben in these one of scenarios. Anything I can upgrade to. Turns into Wild Nut. I all these fun dynamics going on with that ruse there. So that's pretty awesome. And of course it kind of shows it just furthers the message what Ben could be if he went the wrong way to the next ordeal. So yeah, again for that knowledge, it helps boost. I would say Kevin has done better in this season than he was prior, and I don't think anyone would disagree with that regard. But yeah, thank God, as it stands, Kevin was well set up for this season. So yeah, really appreciated that. Moving on, we've got the next episode on my list, Ghost Freak Out. So yeah, this is where Ghost Freak comes out of the Omnitrix finally. It was these 3 episodes were hard to pick which one, which order was my favourite. But Ghost Freak Out is up next on my list. Where Ghost Freak finally gets out the watch. He wants to take his revenge on Ben for treating him like a tool. But he realizes that if I bond with you, I'll be at my strongest. So when he's finally out the watch after fighting the circus freaks, he then decides to go after Ben. But he can't go in sunlight, so he has to wait till nighttime, or he could possess victims' bodies, so he can blend in like that. Which leads into Ghost Freak finding the circus freaks once again and setting up an alliance. While Ben explains that Ghost Freak's out, and he goes into a bit of trauma. Max helps him out with his plumber gear, which is nice to see that little touch. Because as the series progresses, Max's plumber gear and plumber stuff, his character as a plumber comes more out. which is probably because it's no longer a secret. It's finding out he's a plumber, so his plumber tech can help out. And it's revealed, of course, he has all these gadgets and stuff on it. Gwen becomes once again another tool for Ghost Freak to use, as he basically, after a fight with the after the Circus Freaks once again, and Ghost Freak, Ben gets like this sun gun from Max, but then Ghost Freak takes Gwen's body, which is probably the best way you could have done this, and like, drop the weapon and I will take over your body if you don't want your cousin to fall off this edge here. So he does it, and of course Ghost Freak, being, if he just kept his word, he would have the Omnitrix within his grasp. But no, he's like, I'm gonna backstab my own deal. Like, oh, you've dropped the gun, but I'm gonna still kill him. Like, that's not how. Well, the girl, like, you made a deal with me. Like, you shouldn't have done that. It was going so well so far. And that leads into Ben transforming into Grey Matter, so to stop him becoming, part of him again. So, which leads into the clock tower looking sequence where Ben times out, which I am happy that Ben is the one to be Ghost Freak instead of one of his aliens, because that's the symbolism is there that he doesn't need aliens to save the day at points. I think this is like more established in this season than other seasons, that you don't need the alien powers you don't need powers to be a hero. With Lucky Girl, with Ben, like with both Lucky Girl, with the Gwen 10 episode, and there's probably another one I'm missing right now, but this one as well. So yeah, there are many episodes like that where we get the only powers to be a hero. Moving on from the list, we have 2 episodes left for me on my list, and that is, from me, obviously, Adam knows which is my favorite one. My favorite episode is for season 2, so it's no surprise to you that Grudge Match is next. So Grudge Match is another development episode for Kevin 11, of course. Well, let's say development, but development once again. If we're establishing the Kevin and Ben rivalry, it shows that Kevin has survived the fall. He's here to get more revenge on Ben, which leads into a Gladiator episode where all these different aliens are captured by this villain called Slicks, who basically, Slicks has like a very similar. Has 2 things similar with Lord Shen from Kung Fu Panda 2, where he has like this robe design and he has these samurai robots, and he's got this sleek, slick voice like Shen did. So it's very funny in that regard. But going back to the episode, like I said, basically establishes that we're all prisoners now, and there's a funny joke. And the reason why this episode ranks so high, like, there's a nice little one-off joke that me and Adam can relate to. Like, whenever something bad happens in our relationship, I will always blame Adam for no reason whatsoever. And there's this joke where Kevin grabs him, puts him next to the wall, like, this is all your fault. Like, how is it my fault? Oh no, just is. It just reminds me of like how me and Adam normally contrast with each other. But yeah, so then we introduced to Tech Nork, who basically they fought earlier, and that he gains the respect. No, I'm thinking of another fight. Yeah, no, he does respect them right now, but then they're introduced to him, and then after that, they get finally a fight with him together, and I think it was at this point that Ben taught him how to use his powers, which another reason why I boost this episode up for me is because like this might be the first. I think this is probably the first episode or the first incidents where I remember the story, like I told Adam I think like it was back when Beast Quest was on, and Beast Quest was like Rion Lustor versus Shamani, and I was like, what if like when acid hits fire it explodes? Okay, like just to make it more creative. Adam was like, yeah, and I think he had an idea that that was due to Ben 10, but he didn't really know, and I said it was. So I saw Ben 10, and so did he, and I think that's when we put 2 together that we both watched Ben 10. We were little, so that's when I think our Ben 10 love for the show was there. So like we both realized, hey, we can do content on this. That's good. But yeah, so I think that I can. So strangely enough, for 2 reasons. This helps boost the episode up for me anyway. It boosts the episode up for me because it helps establish the whole thing between me and Adam a bit better there. Because like the whole heat blast and stinkfly goo there, and of course that one-off joke like it's your fault. thing there. So I think those two elements help boost this episode up, and it holds a special place that makes it go really high as the number 2 episode for me. And of course, like, you have the whole gladiator concept which you know, they go through all these different stuff and robots to get to Slicks to interrogate him, to figure out how to get off the ship. And turns out he is the control console. And then Kevin he destroys Slicks, then goes to try and beat Ben, because now he's made him stronger by helping combine his powers. But then Technorg throws him in an escape pod and is like, my life is open to you. And he presumably dies, because next time we see Kevin 11, which is the next episode I'll talk about, he's not there. So Kevin 11 will obviously kills this guy. So yeah, Techno, remember his words. His life is owed to him for what he did. Yeah. Anyway, then moving on to the final episode. I should actually just go through real quick. But yeah, if you don't understand what he meant by his life is owed to him, it's because like Kevin, there was a point where Kevin could have killed him, but Ben saved his life. Anyway, then moving on, we've got I forgot its full name, but it's the Vengeance episode. I think it's called Back with a Vengeance, where both are arguably the best villains of Ben 10, Vilgax and Kevin 11, team up because Kevin 11 somehow gets Vilgax in a block of ice. Sense makes none of this because last time we saw you in the normal timeline, you were exploded by your ship, or whatever. Somehow you ended up in a block of ice in space, so Kevin has broken you out of that said ice, which leads into a fight between Kevin and 11 and Vilgax, because you don't look so tough, which is the worst thing you could say to Vilgax, and leads into a big fight, because like it turns out Kevin 11 has taken over Slicks' ship, obviously, and obviously Technorg is not there, so he's clearly dead. Rest in peace, Technorg. And from there, it's like Vilgax takes a look at Kevin, like, oh, you're a mutation of the Omnitrix, we can team up and get Ben, which is what Kevin wants, because like, he wants revenge on Ben, while Vilgax wants the Omnitrix itself. So they have that's their original move. That sticks with their characters, their whole dynamic. Like, one wants the device, one wants the boy. So that's how it goes. Which also, speaking of Ben 10, he gets master control in this episode. He's still messing with the watch when he was supposed to learn that he shouldn't, but it's a good thing he kind of did, because he unlocked master control for this whole episode. So he can become Alien just by thinking it, whichever alien he wants, no time limit required. And he has fun with it a bit at first, trying to experiment with all these different combinations with these new powers. And then, but Max is like, you shouldn't be an alien all the time, because we don't know if there's any consequences, which is true, we don't know if there's any side effects to this. But yeah, this results into Vilgax and Kevin. They say that, oh, we've tried moving the watch before, it can't do that. So, but if we work together, we can do it. And they bring a device because they know it's not going to be an easily removable thing to do, because after their previous experiences trying to remove the watch, because that's like a fail-safe. If you go near it, and it'll blast you. But yeah. Which is, I think the failsafe is what caused the watch to give Kevin his mutation abilities in the first place of the Omnitrix, maybe. But yeah, like I said, they go to Earth, and they've realized that, oh, he's got new control of the watch, he's better with it now, so this is going to be more challenging. Which kind of makes sense. I am happy that happened, because, like, I don't think Ben with his timer could beat both Kevin 11 and Vilgax. But it keeps raising the stakes. Not only do we have both the big villains, we also have master control for Ben, which raises the stakes even higher. Well, he's already got so many aliens. And then you've got Ben and Gwen. Max and Gwen. They get something to do as well. Max, turns out he has the null void projector, which is bringing back an element from earlier on in the series, from Truves. And I've got another notification there. I'll ignore that. It'll probably go away. There it goes away, yeah. Anyway, but yeah, so we've got the null void projector, which is back, which is nice to see some elements you brought back from prior episode, which is like very good knowledge. Like, you're taking all the elements you established prior to this and bringing them back. The null void projector, the big bad villains, and the message of the mutant ray of not messing with the Omnitrix. So there's a lot of elements brought back in this episode. So yeah, the null void projector is trying to be used both on Kevin and Vilgax. However, Ben being Ben, goes in with them and is dragged into the null void. Gwen gets something to do. Both Gwen and Max get something to do. Well, Gwen is going into the null void to get Ben back. Max is the one operating the device, so both of them each get something important to do. And there's no one-off side character either to help ruin the mood at all. It's just the main cast, the main trio with our two of our greatest villains, if not the two. It's arguably which one's the better villain, but they're two of the best villains of Ben 10 canon easily. But yeah, so they're all in all. Both we've got Kevin and Eleven, Vilgax, and Ben having a three-way fight between each other. Well, kind of. Well, that basically Vilgax and Kevin at first have like a team up, and then throughout the episode they're either bickering with each other and fighting with each other for the watch at times, and then Vilgax gets respect with the aliens of the Null Void, and then it goes all kerfuffle from there. Like Ben keeps turning into different aliens there, and at the end, he gets reunited with Gwen, and then Ben sacrifices the Omnitrix for Gwen, which actually I would imagine, like, what if Max went for the portal? Obviously, if Max went for the portal, he would have easily given it up for Max. But I'm actually better. I think it's better that Gwen was the one to do it, because like it goes to show that if he really did care about how much he cared about Gwen, and obviously he did. He obviously does, and it actually showing it on active screen how his family actually meant to him, even though she does all these nasty things to him, or how she doesn't treat him well. She still means a lot to him because she's family, and he thinks he can try to outsmart them. So he basically wipes out the Master Control, which will bite him in the ass later, at the very end, obviously. So, but Vilgax admits that attacking the control combination is child's play for a master of the Omnitrix, even though you've never actually had the Omnitrix, because like your whole character is chasing it down and never getting it. But whatever. But of course, removing the Omnitrix was kind of a bit of a pain. I remember the episode I said, I think that hurts. And like, no kidding. Clearly that hurts. And then it's like it comes off. And we get to finally see the Omnitrix off Ben's wrist. Then Gwen sneaks it off. Because first of all, Kevin 11 backstabs Vilgax, tries to get the Watcher himself and leave with a closing Null Void portal. But then Vilgax and Kevin get into another fight, which allows Gwen to get the Omnitrix back, and Kevin and Vilgax stop them from escaping. Like, first give us the Omnitrix or you'll never go back home. So like Ben said, like, get rid of it. I'm like, but your powers, and like, it's not important that getting us home. Which that right there, all the sacrifice of this all proves that Ben is. I think that helps Gwen realize that he's deserving of the Omnitrix at that point. Like, she could have easily kept it for himself, but seeing his actions without the watch, I think this episode shows what Ben is more like. He's a changed person and he's become a better person. But when he has the watch back on, he's like back to his old usual stick. He's like he doesn't admit his true feelings. Oh, you know what I'm saying? That's how I got out of it. So, anyway, but yeah, so that the watch is the Omnitrix is quote unquote sacrificed. They go home and it's revealed that Gwen still has the watch at all. She gives it back to him, which is a nice thing to do, which I think she understands. Cause like all that stuff there made me prove that you are worthy of having this than me. Which is funny because like it's also a nice a nice callback to the Gwen 10 episode. Another good callback. Because like there's so many callbacks with this. There's a callback with Kevin 11 in the grudge match with like the setting on the ship. Callback with the Gwen 10, like Gwen could be a better person with the watch, which Gwen could be, but she realizes that Ben is a good choice himself because of what she saw in the Null Void of him. And then of course we have the villains established with Kevin 11 and Vilgax from the first season, bringing both the villains from the first season, and now I would say Kevin 11's more of a season 2 type villain, even though he had his introduction was season 1, but he's more a season 2 villain because he has more appearances in season 2. So yeah, bringing both of those villains back is very good, as they have a nice rivalry and camaraderie there. And of course, Trues with the Null Void Projector. Lots of little elements there. No one-off side characters were in the way, ruining the episode. Master Control. Each of the 3 heroes gets something to do. It's just an amazing all around together. And both our favorite, two of the best villains in Ben 10. How could you not like Back with a Vengeance? Only problem is, I don't think we ever get to see Kevin or Vilgax again. we may see Vilgax again. We may see Kevin 11 again, but I'm pretty sure we don't. I'm not counting that. We don't count the Dream episode with Enoch, so because that's not really them at all. So I don't, which is sad, which is a shame. But oh well, it's still it's still for me the best episode of the original series in my own right. And it probably until I see all the other episodes of Ben 10's franchise, which we are planning to do. We are planning to do Alien Force. We are doing the other seasons of the original series. We are doing Ultimate Alien, and we're doing Omniverse, and sadly the reboot. Just to give that a chance, but we already know. I already know it's going to be bad. But as it stands, that is my list. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and we're nearly at an whole hour. Jesus Christ! But hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, smash the like button, subscribe, that good stuff, hit the notification bell right corner down below, so you can stay in tune with all topics on the archive channel, as well as my own, which you can subscribe to as well, or Adam Fern's own solo channel as well. And yeah, so this video will be exclusive to the archive channel, so you'll see it there. And I'll see you guys for more content on the archive channel. So hopefully you guys will enjoy it. Until next time, like always, from me and Adam, peace.